Good morning. Coffee in hand. About to go for a walk. Let's just see who turns up this morning. How's everybody? Going well? Being a small town, rural New Zealand boy, this wet weather reminds me of farm time. So I quite enjoy the wet, rainy weather. It's quite nice. It's quite good light just there, isn't it? Looks good. I wonder how hot my coffee is. Every morning I keep saying that when I go on these walks I won't get a coffee because holding the coffee and the phone are quite a challenge. But let's just see how we roll today. Now I do know that most people watch these on replay, so if no one joins in the next couple of minutes, I'll just get in and begin. Good to see if someone jumps in so we get to say hello to someone on this lovely Wednesday morning. I might go down and around this way, but it might be quite dark that way. I'll go this way. I'll go this way down to the waterfront. Good morning. Got one person on, that's a great start. Just type in hello. It's a great morning. It's going to be a little bit dark, obviously. 6 a.m. is quite dark. So just while people are joining in, because I know most people watch this live, so I'm just going to slowly start. So over the last 2 weeks, we're looking at layers to behavior change, looking at layers for consideration to help us create our greatest life, to help us create our conditions for success and for human flourishing. And we first looked at our environment. So we looked at setting up our environment, how important our environment is. We looked at a classic example of if we want to eat a particular way at home, it's much easier to throw away the food that we're not wanting to eat, gift it, re-gift it, move it on so it's not in the home, and also at the same time to set up our house with healthy stuff. Good morning. Let's try this. Did I hit that button? Add. Saying adding, see if it works. Good morning, Adam. I'm trying to add you, mate. So let's just see if it pops up. I've never done this before. It'll either work or it won't. Sorry about that. It's saying adding. Wave anyway. Okay. It's saying it's doing something. Is it doing anything at your end, Adam? Okay, maybe that's not going to work. Oh no, here we go. Now it's connecting. Adam.
Morning, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. Yourself?
I'm good. I wasn't expecting to be on video this morning.
I have to change. That's all right, mate. I didn't know it was going to work, so I wasn't particularly trying to bring you on. You're just the first one on, so I thought I'd give it a crack.
Yep, and there I am.
Whereabouts are you, mate?
I'm in Spearwood today. I'm just got to work, doing some ceilings and some walls.
Okay. Nice early start.
Yeah. I like to be up early. I'm always up early for 4:30 for me, mate.
Yeah. Okay. Good. About the same time I get up most days as well.
Yeah, I get up early, do my morning practice, my meditation, and some breath work and cold shower, and yeah.
What's your cold shower routine?
It's cold this morning. It's getting colder and colder. I usually get up. I usually do 10 minutes of morning affirmations with my morning cigarette, and then I'll do 20 minutes of meditation, and then I do 60 sit-ups, 60 push-ups, and then jump straight in a cold shower. Nice and warm.
Pure cold the whole way through.
Yep.
Yeah, good man. Good man. It is getting
Yeah.
cold, so I'm in New Zealand. I went home at Christmas time. First day at my mum's, cold shower. Like I had to let out a bit of a squeal. Yeah, because
Yeah.
Perth into late December, early January compared to New Zealand, man.
Yeah.
There's a definite water temperature difference.
Yeah, not so bad. I actually went to Brazil last year, and I didn't realize, like obviously growing up in Perth, a lot of most of the places in Brazil don't even have hot water.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah,
They only have a cold water tap, and so yeah, all their showers are cold water. Not that the water's very cold over there.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but still
But like,
different.
bit like Karratha in there, yeah. No matter
Yeah.
how much you would love to have a cold shower, you can't have one in summer. It's just too hot all
Yeah,
the time.
the
Yeah.
Northern Territory is the same.
Okay, man. Good to see you this
No
morning.
problems. Good to
I'll
see you
try
too,
and
mate.
I'm going to try and close this out. So let's just see how we go, man. This might have been you on for the whole time now, yeah.
They'll be
Let's see
looking.
what happens.
They'll be
Let's
looking at
see
a
what happens
ceiling because I've got to do some work.
let's see what happens if I hit this button. Okay, cool. It's good to bring someone on. That was good. So as we were saying, that we got our 3 layers. We looked at the environment. We were talking about setting up our environment for success. So the food that we have in our house, the distractions that we have around us, how we can set things up to make things a bit easier, a bit harder. Okay. We also talked about our internal environment and how quite often things like our thoughts can drive our physiology, our current fears, past trapped beliefs are held in, and we don't process them as well. And that can change our physiology and change how we're traveling in the morning. Is that Nikki this morning? Good morning. Then last week we had a quick look at others, the power of others. And sometimes when we want to create a change and flourish in a new area, that our others sometimes can either help us or hold us back. And we're a product of the 5 people that we stay closest. And that we vibrate, we have a vibrational energy. And as we go through life, we're normally connected to people who are on that same vibrational energy, on that same vibrational path. So quite often, when we start to create change, the people that we're around pick up on that different energy and they interact with us in a different format and a different way. Yeah, and quite often there's a resistance, and we were talking about destructive or constructive resonance, when now our vibrational path is different. Another thing is when we start to create change and we start to prioritize self and we are investing in self and taking a high road approach, this very, very regularly shines a spotlight on others. And that spotlight that gets shined on others is what they're doing for themselves. Sorry, got to change over. So very often when we create change in our life, it makes others around us feel very uncomfortable, because when we start to prioritize ourselves and do what's best for self, for example, if we choose to drink less, yeah, and we're not going out to the pubs all the time, then our friends that we used to drink with all the time do feel that pressure, yeah, because they will, if they have an issue that they have unresolved and they feel that they need to drink to be a particular way to unwind, to let go, and you're going a different way, it will quite regularly put pressure on them. So we had to look at lots of layers how our others can influence us. Now this week we're going to go into the 3rd layer. So we've looked at environment, we've looked at others, and now we're going to look at the layer of self, our self-identity. Yep. And most of us, when we're looking at creating what's our outcome, we build our processes and our strategies around what we want to achieve. Ultimately, the main thing that creates change is our identity, who we identify as being. And for us to step forward and to flourish in an area that we haven't been flourishing before, it is about identifying with that behavior. So as an example, if I want to lose a couple of kilos, we'll just use weight loss, just because it's an easy topic initially to start with. So if I'm looking at losing weight, a lot of people take the approach of, okay, and they will have a look at energy in versus energy out, and they set up their exercise, and they go on a calorie restriction and they start counting everything along those lines. But their mindset is still the same. They still identify as a particular type of person, and they haven't changed their identity. So when they get in and start exercising, when they get in and start on their diet, it's almost like it's always going to be a short-term fix. It's only ever going to be for the 12 weeks or the 8 weeks or the 15 weeks or whatever length of time that they're going on and setting their goal for. They're still got the same mindset. They're still the person who is either the drinker, the party person, I'm this person, but for this period of time. So they don't have an identity shift. And if we don't have an identity shift, if we don't identify as a healthy person who maintains a set body weight, if that's not now our identity, our behaviors won't sit into place long term. Don't know if you can see, but this morning, it's pretty nice down here this morning. So their goals normally are very, very short-lived. And they'll be using language along the lines of I can't have cake, I can't drink beer, I have to go to the gym. Where it's because they're doing I have to, I can't. It's a short-term outcome because they're going against their natural identity, which was the person that was displaying the behaviors of that past. So our identity is really, really important. Now I'll post a talk. So a guy that I quite like to listen to, Dan Locke, does a TED talk. And in this TED talk, he talks about the power of identity. And it's based off probably my favorite book. Okay, and my favorite book is Psycho-Cybernetics from Maxwell Maltz. And in that it talks about the power of identity, that we can't outperform our belief of self. So in Dan Locke's talk, he talks about his friend who every morning for like 11 years goes for a run. Doesn't matter how late they fly into a new city to do work, he always goes for a run first thing in the morning. If he can't run outside, he'll run on the treadmill in the gym. If there's no treadmill in the gym and it's raining, he'll run around the car park. And after a period of time, Dan asks him the question, why do you run? And his answer is, because I'm a runner. That's his identity. Runners run. Just speaking with Adam this morning, smokers smoke. What's the difference between a smoker and a non-smoker? The behavior. They smoke. If we 100% identify as a non-smoker, then we won't smoke. So our identity is really, really powerful. And if we can change the layer of identity, we change the layer of our others and our environment, and all our behaviors will fall into place. That's the power of identity. it's just the hardest one. So for a lot of us, if we start at the layer of environment, yep, set up the kitchen, set up the house, yep, set up work, yep, make everything really easy to do that we want to do. Yep. We work on our others, we get a coach, become a part of a tribe. We start spending more time with people that empower us than disempower us. We understand that some people will be trying to pull us back. That can very often create the space where we can do the work when we shift our own identity. So the power of identity is really important. Now, if you want to see what your values are, your beliefs are, and what your identity is, I'm just going to have to show you this one more time. Don't know if you can see, but the water's pretty clear this morning. It's pretty nice. Got my headphones in, don't know how windy it is. Not quite as sure if this is the dog that scared the living daylights out of me last week or not. Oh no, looks quite friendly. Hey mate, g'day friendly dog. That one looked very friendly. So we're back at our identity. So if we want to know how we identify, yep, what your body believes you deserve, you have. So what your subconscious believes you deserve, you currently have right now. The level of relationship you have, the body that you have, the health that you have, the friends that you have, yeah, the amount of money that you have in your bank, all of these things, yeah, these are components of our identity. And whatever set point, whatever we have at the moment, our body will align with. That's what our set point will be. So the easiest way to find out what you think, what your subconscious set point is, yeah, and what you think. Let's just use body weight. It's really common. We'll have a look. Okay, what do you currently have now? Have you ever in the past gained weight and lost weight only to return back to the same weight? Yep, or is your weight slowly increasing? All of these things at the moment, if that was either one of them, if your weight was either gaining or you've lost weight only to regain it again, lost weight to regain it again, that means your identity, your set point is at that body weight. You identify as someone as that body weight. Now, for a lot of people, when we go to unpack why that is, it can go a little bit deeper in some places. Some places it's skill set. Some people just don't have the skill set. Other times it's more to do with coping strategies. And a lot of us in life, yep, use distraction and other mechanisms as a form of coping, as a coping strategy. And I'll just come back to body. It's just one topic, but I spent 20 years working in it, so I understand the concept quite well. A lot of people, I'm going to say in the high 95% of the population, use their body to either gain significance because they're not feeling worthy and they invest heavily in how their body looks for an outcome. And that's how I lived for many, many years. I'll post a little picture up about my journey at the end of this as well, as long as that Dan Locke talk. Or they use their body to push people away. Yeah? That's two ways that we can have a look at it. Another thing is our behaviors that we present with often are as a coping strategy to deal with a pain, a wound, a past trauma, a shame, a guilt, a fear, a limiting belief. So quite often we have a lot of people out there who are medicating their behaviors because of these trapped emotions that haven't been let go. They haven't been able to make peace with the past. Yeah? And we all know that love is letting go of fear. So when we have a look at our identity, who we identify as, it has the powerful component that all our behaviors will fall in place underneath. Yeah. So one of the things, if I was to use myself as an example, health is really important to me. It's probably my number one value. And I've weighed pretty much around 79 to 82 kilos for the last 25 years of my life. My blood pressure is around 110 over 65. Yeah, for the last, 20 plus years of my life. Yeah, my resting heart rate's 55 because I measure these. It's a part of who I am, my health, my fitness, my well-being. It's a very, very high importance to myself. So I don't need willpower to perform behaviors. They are just a part of who I identify as. So when we're trying to have a look at creating flourishing, ultimately we're going to set up and work out what our end goal is, what our outcome is. Then we want to set up some processes. Yep. What is the processes to help me to get from the point where I am, my point A, to help me get to my point B, the goal to where I want to be? And that's where most people focus. They focus on what do they have to do in order to achieve the goal. They focus on the doing so they can have. Yeah? But that is a way that is very, very short-lived. Who out there has tried to lose weight before? Who has successfully lost weight and then put it back on? Yep. Or, who has tried to give up smoking only to start smoking again? Yep. Or your income level. All of these things are a part of our identity. So for us to create long-term lasting change, to create, sorry about this changing over again, to change human flourishing, yes, we need to know where our starting point is. Yes, we need to know what the processes are. And yes, we need to know what our end goal is so we can go from our start position, move into our higher purpose, our flourishing, our vision. And we need to have a good system or a process in place. But it's who we are. It's our identity. It's who do I need to be? Yep. What person do I need to become to maintain set body weight? What is the type of person that I need to become? Who do I need to become to have X amount of income? Yeah. What is the type of person that I need to be? Who is the type of person that I need to be to have more freedom and time? Yeah. These are more about our identity, about who is the person that we need to become, more than what is the system that we need to put in place. Because if we put a system in place, it will only last for a short period of time, and anything that the body rejects, anything that doesn't align with the person will often be rejected. Now I'm going to try and give you a couple of examples of this and then try and give you a bit of a strategy. And if anyone has any questions today, please ask. Sorry, I don't know if it's my coffee or the coldish weather, even though it's not cold today, but my nose is running a bit, so I do apologize for that. My mother was a cigarette smoker, and she tried to give up smoking for years, and I used to give her a hard time. I was a hypocrite at the time, and tried to get her to give up smoking, and I'd give her a hard time. And she tried hypnotherapy a couple of times, tried patches, gum. They had even these sort of like fake plastic cigarettes that had nicotine on them somewhere. And she tried many, many times, and she kept relapsing. Her identity was still as a smoker. And her terminology and her language was, I can't have a smoke. Yep. Or I have to not smoke. Yep. It wasn't a connection to self. So she was trying to do this. Eventually, the technique that worked for her when she gave up smoking is she just stopped smoking. Her mindset was, I am no longer a smoker, and she stopped smoking. Her identity shifted and her behaviors and habits fell into place. Now I'm going to use myself. If I go back 20 years, I used to be the real party boy. That was my identity. I was always the one doing more, pushing more. Everything seemed like a lot of fun at the start, but I was a bit of a train wreck. But that was my identity. The guy on the edge doing all the crazy things. I identified as a drug using, heavy drinking party boy. I got a lot of benefits out of it. At the time, it was my identity. It's who people knew me. But today, a year and a half, don't drink, haven't had a drink. I'm a non-drinker, so I do non-drinking behaviors. I'm a healthy guy, so I now no longer do drugs. And it's an identity shift. It's not the work that I did on the habits, it's the work that I did on my identity. If we work just on the habits, if we work just on the process, and you identify as something else, if you identify as the person who needs to comfort eat, who has to have a cheat meal, and your coping strategy around stress is food, or you emotionally get triggered regularly, and you're not dealing with that, you're not coming to terms, you're not coming to peace with that, and your identity is still carrying that wound, then you'll need to put in a self-medication process. Be it, some people do it training really hard, some people do it eating cake, some people do it drinking. All these forms of self-sabotage, because they bring us back down to our set point. So very often we cannot outperform our belief of self. That our set point is dictated by how we feel, what we believe we deserve. So if we want to flourish and change, we need to change our identity. And you'll see this all the time. In 20 years of watching behavior change, because I was drastically trying to do behavior change, I see it all the time. People, you get, I don't know, how do I put it? You might get, I'm just trying to think of a situation that everyone can relate to here. Let's say, as an example, we get 20 people wanting to change. They want to be more peaceful and calm. So they start going to breath work and meditation classes. And what we find is everyone's doing quite well, everyone's enjoying it. So we've got 20 people, all with the one goal. They want to be more calm. They want to be more at peace with themselves. They want to let go. And they go to the exact same week-long retreat. Then they go to the same classes throughout the week. And at the end of 3-4 months, people are starting to drop off. And then when we get to the end of 2 years, only 1 or 2 people out of that 20, probably one person out of that 20, most likely will still be doing the work, who would have gone deep, who will now be someone that has made peace with themselves, who has been able to let go. That person also might not know, and they might believe that it was the yoga and the meditation, where it's not. It's not what made them calm and helped them let go. It was their identity. It was their mindset. That was just the vehicle that they used. They could learn to let go of trapped emotions and past and become at peace and have calm with themselves by, drinking red wine and doing CrossFit, as long as there was some communication about letting go and setting the intention of letting go. So it's our identity, it's how we connect. Okay, so quite often people get a little bit caught up on the process of what they do, but that is secondary to the intention, to the work that we do, how we set up, how we program our identity. So our identity is important. We can't outperform our belief of self. Yep. And as an example, if we stand in front of a mirror and look at ourselves, what is it that we see? Is anyone on? Does anyone want to try to answer that? If I stand in front of a mirror and I look at myself, what is it that I'm seeing? Oh, there's only one person there, so I don't know if anyone's going to answer or not. So I don't know who's there. Looks like only one person, so I'll keep going. Yes, I might see my physical reflection, but that's not what I see. I see my belief of self, my fears, my insecurities, how I feel about myself, what's happened in the past. I see the stories that I tell myself. That's what I'm seeing. I don't really see my physical self. I see how I feel about myself. And our life is the same. Our life is that mirror where we get to see what's reflected of ourselves. Now, I'm a very big believer in anything you could do can create change. If you want to let go of the past and be calm, as long as that's your intention, nearly any method can get you there. Yeah. And quite often, it's not the process. Yeah. It's also not setting up the environment. These are just things that can help us, that can support the identity change, that can support that part of change. And when our identity changes, our life in that area changes. All our habits, patterns, and beliefs will fall into place around that new identity. Yeah? If we now identify as a non-smoker and we truly feel it, see it, connect to it, and we are a non-smoker, then we will no longer smoke. Yeah? But as long as we have terms that, oh, I'm a smoker and I have to give up, then we're going to have a lot of trouble with that moving forward, because that's our identity. That's what we've connected to having some success and removing pain in some areas. So, how do we work on changing our identity? Let's have a look at a couple of strategies. Number one, is setting the intention, doing some intention work about an identity shift, being aware that its identity is the key. Then we can have a look at, once we set that intention, we need to know what our outcome is. Who is someone that has that ability? What do they do? Okay. And then we need to ask ourselves, who do I need to be? Okay. Who do I need to be in order to get the results that I want? So first of all, we set the intention. And then we can go down the path. Who do I want to be in order to get that set results? Another question that I love is, who do I need to be able to dream again? To bring back that inspiration, to be able to see the possibilities outside of ourselves. So who do I need to be able to dream again? Who do I need to be able to love myself? Who do I need to be able to love myself? Not what do I need to do, who do I need to be? Changing that identity. Who do I need to be in order to get the results that I want? These are some really, really important questions. Another thing that's really important when it comes to working on change at the layer of self, yeah, is a vision board. Okay, now once we understand what our outcome is, we want to get a board, quite a large board, and we start putting pictures up on it. Pictures of who we want to be. What results do we have? And as we build this vision board out, we connect to already having them, to already being that person and feeling what that level of change is like. To being what level of success, calm or peace that it is that you're after. We set that up. And when we look at our vision board, we feel into it as we have it right now, immediately, and we connect to that level of feeling. Because everything in life is created twice. Yep, first in the mind and then in reality. And that's why you'll find if we get 20 people to go to a meditation camp, 2 years later, we've probably only had one person stick with that path to create the change they want. Because there was only one person that connected to that reality for themselves, to that identity. So it's not the process, it's our identity. So we've got some power questions. Yep. We've got some projecting into the future to create that self through the use of a vision board. Yeah. One of the other things that's really important when it comes to changing our identity, to change how we relate in a particular area, is doing maybe what some people call shadow work, looking into the dark a little bit. There's two different types of shadow work. We won't go into the depth of that. But it's to go into and connect, to bring awareness, connection. Some people out there like to use the word vulnerability, to feel, to allow. Okay, I like the possibility, to allow myself the possibility to connect, to bring awareness and connection in to what I'm feeling. Yeah. In regards to one of the three major areas, or two of the major areas, yeah, of why we can't succeed often in certain areas, and that is a fear. One of the areas is fears. Yep, I am not enough. Yeah, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of looking silly in other people's eyes. Yeah, fear of, feeling awkward while you're trying to learn. Once we can connect, allow ourselves to feel and to connect to if any fears are there that are holding us back, then we can do the work to release them. We can go back to the time when they first started to trigger us and recondition it. But we do that through a change of identity, through changing our identity to someone who connects now, who someone identifies as someone who loves the challenge of trying something new, that loves the challenge that failing is just one step closer to success instead of the fear of failure. That's how we go about reconnecting with these. So fears is one, okay? One of the other areas is a limiting self-belief. So another thing in a limiting self-belief is I'm not worthy, I'm not smart enough, I'm not clever enough. Yep, I'm not funny enough, I don't come from the right home, I wasn't educated at the right schools, my town is too small. Yep, all these things that hold us back. When we can connect to them, yep, we can find a way, to work through those and change them. Yep. but not by the process. The process is one part. It's by feeling and connecting to the identity, to who do I need to be instead. Okay? Who do I need to be to create that change? Who do I need to be in order to get that level of result? Who do I need to be in order to process that limiting self-belief? Who do I need to be to have the opposite of that limiting self-belief, to have an empowering belief? Who do I need to be that person to do the work? That's the identity shift. So with our awareness, allowing ourselves to feel, and that connection to fears and limiting self-beliefs, we can start to create a new identity. I'm going to do this now because I might forget. Another thing is releasing past wounds, trapped emotions, hurts, resentments, and allowing us to let them go. To understand that regardless of whose fault anything might have been at the time, if it's still having an effect on us, it's our responsibility to release that. It's our responsibility to make peace, to be calm, to let that go. So releasing past traumas is also quite important, because holding those past traumas will affect your physiology. It will move you more into a stress state than a rest and digest. If we're more in that state, it's going to disconnect us from our prefrontal cortex. It's going to put us more into our reptilian brain, and it's going to create us to shut us down. Shut down long-term planning. It's going to create us to be more impulsive. So it is quite important to release past traumas, past wounds, past hurts, resentments, jealousies. But that's all a part of us letting go. It's all a part of our identity and identifying as a person who sees things in a different way. So we had a quick look today at the power of self-identity. That who do we identify as? Okay, that is the most important thing to create change, our identity. That we can't outperform our belief of self. That anything that comes into contradiction or anything that goes against that belief of self is rejected. And that's why I like to use this form of questioning when it comes to affirmations. Now just remember, I believe nearly anything will work for you if you have the right identity. So I believe a lot of people who use this form of affirmation, it works well for them not because of the affirmation, but because of the identity that they have connected, and then they do the affirmations. Okay, so I believe affirmations are very powerful to create change. Any client that works with me, we use a journal. I call it the space. We need to create time, and we use the space. And our journal is our reflection point. But our affirmations are done in the form of questions. And I find this a lot more powerful to help the 95% of people who haven't had the identity shift, to create the identity shift. And instead of saying, I have a positive relationship with food. I have a positive relationship with food. Or I love myself. Or I am good with money. Or I am a good communicator. Because if your past track record has been along the lines of that your relationship with food isn't good, that you turn to it in times of stress release, that you binge eat and then purge, etc., your subconscious knows that. Your subconscious knows all the facts. And if you tell yourself you are something, and at least the high 90s, 95% of the chance, you will reject that. Your body will say, that is not true. I'll say it, but I don't really believe it. And if we can't feel it and believe it to be true, our body will reject it. And those affirmations I find aren't the most empowering. But if I ask an affirmation in the form of a question, and our questions are the gateways to our subconscious, and our subconscious is our energy bank of all past experience. And if we ask it a question, it will answer ourselves honestly. So if I want to change my identity, who I am in relation to something, questions are a powerful tool to get into that. And the questions can be along the lines of, when has a time I've been empowered with my food decisions? Yeah. When have I had control of my emotions without the use of food? And then your body will answer it for you. So instead of saying, I am good with food, I have a positive relationship with food, we'll ask questions along the lines of, when have I displayed a great relationship with food? And your body will back it up with an answer based on a true fact. That then, as we start to condition that pathway, will start to change your identity. That is a powerful, powerful way. Powerful questions. So I love to use the power of questions. So just a bit of a recap. To create change, there's 3 layers. It's a little bit more to this, but to create flourishing, to increase your happiness, to get your weight back under control, to have more money, to be a better lover, to be a better communicator, whatever it is that you want, it's about the identity shift. Okay? It's about who you identify as and changing your identity. The process can help, but if we don't change our identity, the process won't help us, because we'll keep rejecting it, and after the end of a program, we'll return back. Yep. So it's the identity shift. So number 1 is set that intention. Who is it that I want to be? Who is it that I need to be in order to gain those results that I want? Who is it that I need to be able to dream again? Yep. Then we have a look at overcoming some past fears, some past limiting self-beliefs, some past traumas, wounds. And we do that by letting go of our story, letting go of our ego, letting go of judgment. Understanding that it's no one's responsibility to create our change except for ourselves. So again, comes back to, who is it that I want to be? And we release that. It's about identity. We can't perform outside our belief of self. Yes, we have our 3 layers. We have our environment. We have our others. And we have our layer of self. If we can change at the layer of self, everything else underneath falls into place. But sometimes for us to get to that, as we're going through and conditioning ourselves with our questions, as we're connecting to that new identity, that identity that we are, to be able to feel it and see it, we can set up that environment, set up our environment for success, and set up our others for success. Set up those people in and around us to help drive us there. But ultimately, success long term comes back to identity shift, not the system. And we can see this all the time. You see it everywhere you go. People can create huge changes. Some people become vegans and it really works for them. Some people become carnivores and it really works for them. You get some sort of beer drinking, meat eating CrossFitter who creates massive change in their life. Yet you can find a vegan yogi person who creates massive change. You can find some people who can build out structure and work on relationships and stuff And they can do it through meditation and breath work, yeah, when others can, you know, have a different method to get there. Yeah. So quite often it's not the method, it's the identity. And then when we identify as it, we'll make that system work. So identity is our largest component to create the life that we want. We actually become that new person with that new identity. So I hope that helps. A little bit of rambling this morning. Over the last 3 weeks we've talked about environment, others, and today, self. Does anyone have any questions for today? Oh, good time. I know there's a delay. Okay, that looks like us. So everyone, have a great Wednesday. I hope you found some value in that. Every time I do one of these, I get more and more value each time. Just so you know, I do find these really challenging to do. I still have a fear of how others perceive me and how I look, and when I'm walking and talking and I can't see my whiteboard and my guided scripted thing as I go through, sometimes it brings up certain things, but I identify as a positive influence, and regardless of how I feel, I still step up and do the work. I still put myself up there. Yeah, and if you were to ask my partner quite often after these, I feel really flat because I feel that I didn't come across and connect with people the right way, or I got lost and I couldn't see where I was going, or I repeated the same thing 15 times, and etc. And I wasn't clear and I wasn't concise, but I identify as one of the best health coaches in the world. Yep. I identify as someone who's an influence in the community. So at the moment, even though it's awkward and it's uncomfortable, I do the work because that's my identity. And these are the systems that we use. So identity is number one. Connect with your identity. Use your power questions to back that up. Yep. Set up your others and create an environment. And if we create our environment for success, if we get our tribe and our team and people around us that are there for us, not against us, to lift us up, yeah, not to put out our fire, and when we work on self, our self-identity, because once we have that self-identity, yeah, be it whatever you want, then all your behaviors will fall into place. And I hope those tips will help you out today. So have a great day. It's quite warm. I've got my jacket on. Now, big mistake walking on a warm morning with a warm jacket, but we made it. Have a great one, everyone. It's been a pleasure, and possibly see you all here again next week.